As we move on to our next honoree, just as there is the spirit of Helen Keller and Kate Gans, Helen Keller definitely would have approved of the next honor that we're given. She and Secretary Clinton have so much in common. They are strong, smart, compassionate, fearless women who've traveled around the world to help those who are less fortunate. Hillary Clinton has been named Gallup's most admired woman in history every year since 2002. That's incredible. She's won this annual poll, in fact, 17 times since 1993. And she's in really good company because the next three women with the most wins are Eleanor Roosevelt, Margaret Thatcher, and Jacqueline Kennedy. And I have to say, in the very few years when the secretary did not top the list, who did she lose out to? Mother Teresa. Secretary Clinton has been a tireless champion of global health and improving the health and lives of women and children around the world. At HKI, we particularly applaud the urgency she's created around recognizing nutrition as being essential to child health, child growth, and productivity. She was visionary in launching 1,000 Days back in 2010 with the tagline, "Change a life, change the future." Her leadership on this issue and her attention to evidence-based, proven, and cost-effective solutions has mobilized the United States government's commitments through major initiatives such as Feed the Future, a bold $3.5 billion pledge to address the root causes of hunger and poverty. Her staunch commitment to nutrition as being essential to both child health and to future economic productivity has catalyzed unprecedented global and partner government commitments to addressing nutrition for mothers and children. Governments the world over are joining in with pledges of support, and this is her legacy. It's happening now. Developed countries such as Ireland, the Netherlands, the UK, but already 37 developing countries such as Malawi, Tanzania, Bangladesh have committed to something called the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement, and they are committing government resources to improve nutrition of women and children in their countries. Secretary Clinton's put a big, bright global spotlight on nutrition and the importance of nutrition for mothers and children. This impact is going to be felt for generations and generations to come. Helen Keller said, "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart." Well, tonight's honoree has a huge heart, and she has the courage and the determination to change a life and to change the future. It's an honor and a pleasure to welcome Hillary Clinton to the stage.
Well, it's a wonderful honor and privilege to be here and to follow Kate Gans, who I think so well described the challenges but also the extraordinary opportunities that this organization and those who are here tonight supporting it are making possible to overcome and think about a different kind of future. Kathy, thank you. Thank you for the leadership that you have provided not only to Helen Keller International, but also with your recently concluded service as the head of Interaction, the NGO that brings together so many NGOs and tries to work to maximize the impact of organizations like HKI and others who are engaged in the front lines of what really matters in the world, namely that sense that every single person, every girl, every boy, every man, every woman deserves the right to have a life that fulfills his or her own God-given potential. And so for me, it's especially exciting and humbling to be part of the celebration and recognition of what HKI does. I want to recognize Barry Palmer on behalf of Lions International. I'm a huge fan of what Lions clubs and your members do around the world, and I really think that Helen Keller put you on the right track back in 1925, because the emphasis on vision and the consistent work that the Lions clubs have done ever since then really have set such a high standard. And we're so pleased that you and Mrs. Palmer came all the way from Australia to receive this recognition. And Kate, thank you. Thank you for so beautifully and passionately describing what it's like to be out there and to understand in such a visceral way what you can certainly intellectualize sitting here at Christie's, what it must be like to be a woman with 3 children, one who she's feeding, one on her back, and one who is staying close by, probably maybe 20 years old, and wondering every single day, will this child be alive tomorrow? And what will I do with the next child, and the next child, and the next? So it was a great reminder in a very visually compelling way as we pictured what you saw when you were there in that village. I thank also the gala co-chairs and all the members of the Board of Trustees and Christie's, of course, for supporting Helen Keller International, to really understand the significance of the work that is carried on against undernutrition, malnutrition, against blindness and impaired sight worldwide. And I have to confess tonight that when I was invited some months ago to be here this evening and very kindly offered this award, I immediately, upon receiving the invitation, within maybe a day or two, received a letter from the President of Tanzania, President Kikwete, saying, I understand that you have been offered the opportunity to receive an award from Helen Keller International, and I want to tell you everything that they have done for us in Tanzania. I have never received a letter from a president of a country, including my husband when he was president, urging me to come to an NGO. But I have to quickly say I'm not surprised. Because I did have the privilege of working with Helen Keller International several times over the years, starting when I was First Lady, to highlight the importance of vitamin A for vision, for a healthy immune system, for healthy pregnancies. Then when I was very privileged to be a senator from New York, I served on the Health Subcommittee in the Senate and worked again with HKI on the Child Sight Program, which gives free eye exams, as we saw in the photograph, and as the 2 young women here today can attest to, that it really does serve children in our country as well as elsewhere around the world. So I have seen the impact of the work that you are supporting tonight over a number of years now. Smart and sensible, results-oriented, aimed at really making a difference, person by person, village by village, country by country. And I think the recognition that certainly Helen Keller brought to this issue during her lifetime and that HKI has continued is more important today than ever. Because it's not just about blindness, as tragic as it is, that 80% of blindness in the world is preventable. It's not even just about undernutrition, although we have to admit that the lack of nutrition, particularly in the first 1,000 days of life, can have such long-lasting effects on individuals, on families, communities, and yes, countries. It's that we now must reassert the importance of evidence-based decision-making. Not ideological, not partisan, but based on facts. What works and what can we do to make more of that possible? And an organization like this one lives and breathes that. It's not enough to say, you know, we want to help prevent blindness. Let me think. Maybe if we teach children to sing. I like singing. Singing is good for you. Maybe that would help prevent blindness. Well, no, actually, vitamin A would help to prevent blindness. So let's do more on vitamin A. We have to, as civil society, as the private sector, as government, recognize we know a lot about what works. We just need to do more of what works. And we need to be not just open to, but absolutely demanding that science and research and facts will guide us. Now, the reason that's important to me is that for all the years that I've spent in public service, and certainly for the last 4 years as secretary, we know very well that given the economic and budgetary pressures that confront governments and aid organizations and private sector partners, we have to be really smart about getting results from the investments we make. So when we make what may seem to some like small interventions to address problems of health and nutrition, for example, helping women farmers plant gardens of micronutrient-rich foods and vegetables, as HKI has done through its Homestead Food Production Initiative, we're not only addressing people's immediate physical or economic well-being, we are making investments that will continue to encourage others to do the same. It is a way of making very clear that this is what works. You can see the results. Now government X or government Y or business A or business B help us do more of that. It's an argument that I made frequently as Secretary of State because I wanted to elevate the importance of development alongside defense and diplomacy, the so-called 3Ds. And I wanted to look for ways that could bring this broad cross-section of concerned parties together. When I would reach out to the private sector, there were some in the aid community who would say, well, you know, we don't want to partner with business. That might somehow undermine what we do, or it might cause reaction because even though they may help us in this area, they are doing other things we don't approve of. And my response to that always was, we need all the partners we can find. We have a lot of hard work that we must do together. So one of the development initiatives that I championed was the 1,000 Days Initiative that Kathy has mentioned, which I helped to launch in 2010 during the UN General Assembly in partnership with the UN and a number of countries and organizations, including Helen Keller International. Because it did seem to me that if you look again at the evidence, you can only conclude that the first 1,000 days, that period from pregnancy through a child's second birthday, sets in motion so much of what will happen to that young person for however many years he or she has. The evidence is overwhelming that nutritional deficiencies in that window can cause lifelong limits in both mental and physical development that no amount of good, healthy nutrition later in life can correct. So it seemed to us that it was very important we concentrate on helping mothers and their children get the right amounts of the right nutrients for those first 1,000 days. Now, since it began in 2010, the 1,000 Days Initiative has helped focus the world's attention on the issue of childhood nutrition. We have, as Kathy explained, integrated investments in nutrition through another initiative that we began called Feed the Future, which is our global hunger and food security initiative. And I was very proud right before I left office to announce more than $1 billion in support from U.S. civil society organizations, including HKI, aimed at global food and nutrition security. Then last year, at the annual meeting of the G8 countries, President Obama led the leaders in galvanizing support for what is called the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement, sometimes called SUN, S-U-N for short, which is working with 35 countries worldwide. And the World Health Assembly has committed to reducing stunting among children under age 5 by 40% by the year 2025. And the United Kingdom, to their credit, used the occasion of the London Olympics to call on world leaders to reduce the number of stunted children worldwide by 25 million in time for the next Summer Olympics in 2016. So the international community is getting on board, and we're seeing countries like Tanzania announcing plans and following through on their own efforts. Guatemala also is a wonderful example of what real leadership can produce. When President Molina came into office, he discovered that nearly 50% of Guatemala's children are undernourished. But fewer than 1% of the population was aware of the problem. So he launched a major public information campaign. And I remember talking with them. You know, I went to 112 countries, met a lot of leaders. Sometimes within the space of 4 years, there were 7, 8 leaders, depending on what was going on in the country. So a lot more leaders than 112. And I remember being so impressed when the new leadership of Guatemala came. And the first question was, you know, we need help on our efforts against the drug traffickers, as important as that was, or we need economic assistance and investment. The first question is, what can you do to help us deal with this terrible problem about malnourished, undernourished children? So here's what a single leader can do that makes a difference. He sent his cabinet to live for a week in rural areas where undernutrition is especially prevalent. That brought a lot of attention, and all of a sudden public attitudes shifted, and they started a new national campaign called the Zero Hunger Pact. So it's been exciting to see government leaders, civil society leaders, private sector leaders, not just advocating, as important as that is, not just raising awareness, as essential as that is, but literally rolling up sleeves, coming up with solutions, and sharing them with the world. Throughout all of this work, HKI has been a pioneer of research into micronutrients, helping to uncover the critical connection between early childhood nutrition and lifelong health. And once HKI recognized that link, then they came up with solutions like the vitamin A capsules, because thanks to your leadership, the number of people receiving those capsules have increased significantly worldwide in the past 15 years. And then with the Homestead Food Production Initiative, it's helped to decrease childhood anemia by 60% in the Philippines, by nearly 30% in Bangladesh and elsewhere. And it has the added benefit, as we saw in the photos, of helping families that have excess produce and livestock sell them in the market to increase their incomes and improve their families and their neighbors' nutrition by as much as a factor of 2 in Bangladesh, according to one study. So I have been thrilled to work with HKI over the years. I was delighted to be honored and asked to participate. But I have to say, really, someone like me applauding all of you is really cheering you on, but you're doing the work. Not only those in the organization and on the board of trustees, but all of you who are supporting HKI. The leadership from this organization, rooted in such a remarkable woman, has changed so many minds and so many lives over the last century. I'm proud of the work that we've done together, but the momentum must keep going, because this is, of course, about individual lives that are transformed, but it is also about what I see on the horizon, which is going to be more and more instability and conflict over diminishing resources, particularly water and food. So we are in a race against time, and we have to change on the macro level how we deal with so many related issues. But continuing on the day-to-day, person-by-person efforts will give us the chance to continue to advocate, raise awareness, change lives, transform communities, and hope that that work, that evidence-based outcomes, will make a difference in the policies that are followed around the globe. Now, Helen Keller was unstoppable. We've heard so much about her extraordinary resilience and her understanding that we all have a role to play. She said many memorable things. The welfare of each is bound up in the welfare of all, something that we occasionally forget. And she helped create this institution. So I'm very proud to be your partner in supporting health and progress worldwide, in supporting a very fundamental conviction of mine that talent is universal, but opportunity is not. And the more we can do, person by person, to give every young person particularly the chance to live up to their God-given potential, the more we will have honored Helen Keller, and the more we will be adding to the potential of the world that she would very much want us to have. Thank you very much.